Hey, baby, it's the king. Plastic EP's tribute to Elvis Presley, and he just had a birthday. And coming in from the UK is Joe Kane from the Poppermost. Go, Joe.
I'm gonna sit right down and cry over you. I'm gonna sit right down and cry over you. And if you ever say goodbye, and if you ever even try, I'm gonna sit right down and cry over you. I'm gonna love you more and more every day. I'm gonna love you more and more every way. And if you ever say goodbye, and if you ever even cry, I'm gonna sit right down and cry over you. Gonna tell your mother, tell your papa too, so he'll know exactly just what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I'm gonna sit right down and cry over you. I'm gonna sit right down and cry over you. And if you ever say goodbye, and if you ever even try, I'm gonna sit right down and cry over you. Hey, gonna tell your mother, tell Papa too, so they'll know exactly just what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I'm gonna sit right down and cry over you. I'm gonna sit right down and cry over you. And if you ever say goodbye, and if you ever even try, I'm gonna sit right down and cry over you. I'm gonna sit right down and cry over you. I'm gonna sit right down and cry over you. Yeah, Plastic EP's a man down under. Come on, baby.
Hey, thank you, Joe. That was fantastic. I just want to say, tell me about the Poppermost. Where are you playing next?
Poppermost, we've just played around. I'm writing the next album right here in Fabi Road. This is the studio where we're in. I'll give you a quick tour of the studio. I've got my 65 Ludwig kit here where all the drums are recorded in the booth. I've got my piano, I've got my tack piano. This is the Fabi Road console right here. And my Vox Continental and all the stuff, So this is where it all happens. The next album is going to be recorded very soon. Writing it right now. Thanks for your support, brother. Love you. Love you, EP.
Thank you, brother. Thanks again. We love you. See you, Joe.
And we're going.
Right, here we go. We're going to kick off the big. There you go. Wait. 50,000 Plastic EP fans can't be wrong. Let's bring them on today. And our very special guest coming in from Los Angeles. We love him. He's coming now. It's Ivor Davis.
Whoa. I just want to say that little sojourn to Scotland was terrific, because I want to say he was great. I mean, I loved his state-of-the-art studio. And where was that? Was that the Outer Hebrides, or was it in Glasgow? Do you know where he was? Which part of the country?
I'm not sure where it is, but let me tell you now, he's still with us. And we thank him for coming on the show. He's still there.
Hey, baby. I'm in Glasgow,
Joe,
baby.
Glasgow. Okay.
Hey, Joe, thanks for being on the show.
His wife is complaining.
My name is Ivor. I'm an engine driver. Just 'cause I'm late don't mean he'll never get through. He told me he loved you, ain't no lying either. So better be nice, or something like that. Cheers, Ivor.
All right, we'll see you, Joe.
Joe sings much better than Billy Connolly. I want to tell you that right away.
Don't worry. Here's Mr. Shampoo. We get him on now. Everyone's coming on board now. Wait. We got our very special guest. Watch his Aidan Pruitt. Right.
Hello, everyone.
Aidan
Lovely
Pruitt.
to see you all.
Coming in from Melbourne, Australia. Right. Do a song now. Return to sender. Come on. I'm ready.
Oh my goodness. How could I possibly follow Joe? Joe just did this incredible.
Just get the guitar going for a bit now. Let's go. Return to sender.
Oh, good. Yeah. Because Plastic's going to sing. And I'll do the guitar. Let's do that. And
yeah,
in
you
fact,
do the
Mr.
guitar.
Shampoo, why don't you grab a bass?
Ivor,
Mr.
I
Shampoo,
want you to
grab out a
join in,
bass,
right?
man.
Because you interviewed him at his trailer, right?
Yeah, I mean, can you do the guitar? Let's get this just organized a minute. And will Plastic sing Heartbreak Hotel while you play the guitar?
I think
we're going to do Return to Sender. Return to Sender. Return to Sender. Let's go. Oh, let's go. Return.
Go for a Plastic.
Let's go. Right. Return to sender. Return to sender. I wrote a letter to the postman. He put it in his sack. Bright and early next morning, he brought my letter back. So she wrote upon it, return to sender.
I reckon that
address unknown.
Brevity is the key. Brevity is the key. I've been told that.
Aidan. What do you want to say about Elvis before we get everyone on?
Yeah, all right, because I got to get out of here. But it is so fantastic to see you guys, and I am a huge Elvis fan. And this is my favorite record of Elvis, The Sun Sessions. Here he is. Oh, there he is. And I was very lucky to record a couple of tracks at Sun back way back in 2009, because that was like that was obviously for me so long ago. Anyway, I just want to say, guys, Ivor, Plastic, Mr. Shampoo, always a pleasure to see you all. And I'm gonna check back in. I'm gonna be with my kids, and I'm gonna be checking back in with this show later on in the day. Have a wonderful experience.
Hopefully we're still here.
Hopefully you're still here, and I'll see you guys all very soon, I hope. Cheers. Have a good one. Lovely to see you.
All right.
Bye.
See ya. Now, Ivor, I've got to ask you, Ivor, what was it like when Elvis met the Beatles? What did the Beatles tell you after they met Elvis? I've got to ask you that question. After the meeting with Elvis, what did the Beatles really think of Elvis?
Well, to be honest with you, they weren't raving, but then history changed things because when they came out of it, they thought Elvis was a bit offhanded. It took a long time to warm up to them, and it wasn't as great as everybody said it was. But they finally ended up singing together, doing a kind of a sing-song session, which broke the ice. But I want to tell you that but right away they were kind of ho-hum. However, years later in the anthology, I'm sure everybody who's tuned in knows the anthology, they rave about the night they met Elvis. But it wasn't quite. History can kind of be slightly changed, and that's what happened. They kind of warmed up and definitely much improved.
Do you remember what songs they actually jammed to, Ivor? Do you remember the song?
Well, I tell you, the only thing I do remember about the songs was that Elvis led, and they never played a single Beatles song, and it was some of the black songs like that was more Elvis than the Beatles, because the Beatles just followed Elvis, and it was oh gosh, I should have it at my fingertips, but it was not Beatles stuff, and they were a little bit thrown off. But listen, it took a bit of time to warm up because when we got there, nobody introduced anybody to Elvis, and so they sat around 20 minutes while Elvis sat with his remote control changing channels, and the Beatles were fascinated by a remote control because would you believe, Mr. Shampoo, would you believe back then in 65, England didn't have remote controls. Now, whether Australia did, I don't know. But anyway, so the Beatles were amazed that he could sit there and go click, 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 and the picture changed. And so finally,
we never had we never had remote controls. We had black and white TV.
Yes, of course. And England only had black and white TV. And the Beatles used to sit in fascination watching color TV. It was a big thing. It's hard to cast your mind back because you're all too young. But to think that black and white, I mean, Mr. Shampoo wasn't even a glint in his parents' eyes, right?
Yeah, but I got to say, we didn't get colour TV till 1974 in Australia.
Okay. Well, there you go.
And I was there. In 65, I was 7 years old. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Well, Ivor, I heard that Elvis was sitting around with a big Fender bass and his nice robe, and the Beatles walked in and he was playing this big Fender bass. Is that true?
Well, he wasn't playing when we arrived. But then as soon as Elvis, after about 15 or 20 minutes of discomfort, because nobody introduced him, Elvis said, I'm going to bed. And the Beatles said, what? And Elvis had a sense of humor. I'm going to bed unless you want to jam. And the Beatles said, wow, that was it. Poor Ringo got left out, by the way. Ringo had to go in the other room where he played billiards or snooker or whatever with Brian Epstein and Colonel Parker. And in the other room, the Beatles jammed with Elvis, who led it.
Ivor, is it true that John Lennon pulled Elvis aside and said, listen, man, when are you going to stop doing the rubbish songs and get back to what you used to do?
Wasn't quite that way, if I may. Paul McCartney said to Elvis, and I think he said it, there was no malice of forethought. He did not say this with malice. He said, because Elvis had not been doing that much, he said, why don't you, we love to hear the old stuff. And Elvis took offense to that. Elvis took offense and thought that Paul was criticizing him for doing lousy stuff. Well, it was certainly true, because if you remember, Elvis was making 3 crappy movies a year. And they were writing songs for those movies, which weren't that great. A new leading lady, same old story, a different song. So Elvis took offense to that, as if the Beatles were saying to Elvis, you're past it. And don't forget, that's the kind of movie. One other thing, don't forget, Elvis was making these movies. He wasn't very happy about it. He was jealous of the Beatles because they knocked him off the hit parade. So there you go. You've got the atmosphere.
Now, Ivor, who put this meeting together? Was it Colonel Parker and Brian Epstein, or how did it happen?
It was exactly that. John Lennon wanted desperately to meet Elvis. John Lennon used to stay awake late at night in Liverpool, listening to Blue Suede Shoes and Heartbreak Hotel on a little radio, on a program coming from Europe called Radio Luxembourg. Because again, you've got to remember, Mr. Shampoo, they didn't have rock and roll channels in England, believe it or not. So they had to listen to Radio Luxembourg. And John told me at 2 o'clock in the morning, he had his radio to his ear, up all night listening to rock and roll. And along comes this guy singing Heartbreak Hotel and Blue Suede Shoes, and John is smitten. And John wanted to meet Elvis. The first year, 1964, of their American tour, what happened was that Elvis was making movies, the Beatles were too busy, and then finally in 65, the summer of 65, they finally pulled it all together. And I saw the letter that Brian Epstein wrote to Colonel Parker, and he said, we don't want to overdo this, we don't want any journalists, we don't want any tape recorders, we don't want any cameras. Can you believe that? No historic record of the Elvis Beatles historic meeting. Amazing.
Ivor, what do you remember about meeting Elvis? Do you remember his hair or his eyes, or what was it that you specifically remember about meeting him?
Here's the thing. As soon as we walked into the living room of his house, there was this guy sitting on the couch with your hair, as he had your hair as sideburns. Yeah, it was like shag carpeting. Yeah. So that's it. And he had his collar up, and he was looking like Elvis. And this was Elvis because he looked the way we thought he would look. And that's what they saw the moment they saw him. And I guess here comes Daniel.
Hello, Ivor. How are you, sir?
Hi, good.
Hello, Ed.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Plastic. Hi, Ivor. Hi, Nathan.
Ed.
Daniel. Good to see all of you.
Yeah, good to see you guys.
Everyone's coming. This is fascinating stuff, Ivor. And I also want to say, when you met Elvis on the movie set outside his movie trailer, do you remember what movie he was actually doing?
Well, to be honest with you, I think his leading lady was Mary Ann Mobley. I mean, whatever that movie was, because every 3 times a year he made a movie and he had a new leading lady, Mary Ann Mobley, Anne Margaret, whoever. So he just churned these pictures out. So when I went on the film set to interview him, I remember this vividly because we sat down in his dressing room and he kept calling me sir. Now, he was about 4 years older than me. It was kind of off-putting. There was Elvis calling me sir. And after about 15 minutes of rather he talked about his films and he talked about the usual crap, actually. What a lovely leading lady he had and the music was great and all that. Suddenly a guy comes in and says, "El, we need you on the set." So I said, "Oh, I'd love to come and watch Elvis do a scene." And the manager or the producer who was, "Oh no, Elvis gets a little bit nervous when he has people watching him do it." So I said, "Elvis, pleasure to meet you. I got a 15-minute interview with a load of rubbish, nothing really substantial." And as I was driving out the Paramount Studios, I noticed a lot of noise coming from the parking lot, and there were 6 guys playing football. There was the Memphis Mafia throwing the ball to Elvis. So that was a lot of old baloney to get me out of there. But Elvis wasn't very good as an interview, really. I mean, I in some of the research I did, he didn't give of himself that much. And unless you experts on the screen with me can say, well, I read interviews with Elvis where he was loquacious, he was articulate, and he spilled his guts. I'd like to know when.
Now, everything I've seen is that he was at least he held a lot back. I think he was afraid of speaking too much or giving away too much of himself. He also was really nervous. He was still at his heart a really shy person. I have a fantastic picture of Elvis being interviewed here in Charlotte, North Carolina in 1956. And Elvis is basically biting his nails in the middle of the interview. He did not, for being Elvis, and he obviously was Elvis, he did not come to interviews naturally.
Well, that was it, and the people that handled him knew that Elvis's limit for an interview was 15 minutes. And believe me, it was really a lot of tosh. I mean, it was very unsubstantial stuff. But that happened a lot. In my career, I've interviewed a lot of stars, and you would think they would be loquacious and outgoing and have a lot to say, but they don't. They don't. And as Daniel said, that's a perfect example of Elvis. He wasn't an exception in the Hollywood panoply of people.
Yeah, there's all 2 interviews even now where you get somebody who can actually speak effectively to being who they are and who they were, and it's a rarity more than a norm, and it is a shame because there's so many questions we all have for Elvis that and Ivor, I'm sorry if you can't get it out of him. I'm not sure who can.
Now I just got to ask you, Ivor. Joe's back, and he wants to ask you a few questions. Joe, if you want to ask Ivor some questions about Elvis, go for the Beatles.
Yeah. Joe, could you keep the noise down a bit because I don't want to disturb your wife who's trying to sleep in Glasgow,
It's
right?
okay. Well, I'm out in the shed now. I'm out in the studio now, so it's cool. Okay, my questions are and I don't want these questions to appear frivolous. I'm genuinely interested. I understand the Beatles were very this is their kind of first period of getting stoned. So how stoned were they when they met Elvis? And do you think that contributed to the awkwardness?
They were getting stoned in the limousine going. I think George said we had a few cups of tea. Now, when I went with them, I didn't travel with them in the same limo. I was in the second limo, so to go along. That's how I got to Elvis's house. But when they got there, George said they'd had several cups of tea in the car, and they'd lost their way a bit, and finally they arrived, and so I think they were a little bit high because as I said earlier, can you imagine?
My point is not that they were high, but it probably contributed to how awkward things were between them, because they weren't in their natural kind of charismatic state. They were kind of like probably pretty freaked out because of how stoned they were. Because I know, from a mental health point of view, when I get stoned in a social situation, it's very difficult. So if you were meeting someone who was your ultimate golden god idol in this state, and they were probably smoking really strong weeds.
Yes.
Like,
that
I can't imagine. Like,
that's a brilliant assessment. And if you give up music, you can certainly go into psychology. But seriously, Joe, I think that's a very, very perceptive observation, because they were stoned when they got there, and all the elements you just described were there. I mean, it was ripe for what took place. They didn't know what to say. They were in awe of him. Elvis was very uncomfortable with people, as I think Ed mentioned a few minutes ago. Anyway, hi, Fred.
Hey, hi, Ivor. Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yes.
Now, I just want to say, Ivor, with Elvis, I got something happening. I want people to text in and tell me what's inside the Elvis lunchbox. What's inside the Elvis lunchbox?
I know.
Peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and peanut butter and banana sandwich. That's right.
A monkey's
All
thermos.
right, I'm not going to say too much. Half of it's right. So just wait and see. I'm waiting for some text. Now, Ivor, I'm going to ask you, when it comes to Elvis, it's all in your book, isn't it?
It is. A lot of it's in my book. What's not in the book is, by the way, the answer to the question was that Elvis, I remember interviewing Elvis's chef, a black lady who cooked for him. I mean, I think he was into pancakes and peanut butter and fried cheese sandwiches. So Elvis liked to pound the food. Anyway, this is not a food show, I know, but somebody mentioned the delicacies that Elvis liked, and I remember talking to his lady chef, and she said, Elvis liked a real fry up.
It always struck
okay,
me
now
that
listen,
Elvis.
can you read that out for me? Daniel, please?
All right, hang on. I got to put my glasses on. I have the answer, Mr. EP: 2 cheeseburgers and 2 bananas.
Right, can we hold this up?
They think you're groovy.
Wait, we're going to open it up. I have not touched it. Watch. I've not touched the lunchbox.
Not touched by human hands.
Hang on. I've got to open it. I've got to work out how to open this lunchbox. Wait, here we go. Watch it over. Hang on a minute. I'm going to unlock it. Watch now, everybody. What's inside the Elvis lunchbox? Right, here's your answer right here. Yeah. I haven't got time to write it. What's it say, Ivor? Hang on.
I haven't a clue. I mean, I didn't send you the lunchbox, and I never cooked for
What's
Elvis.
that say, Ivor?
Cheese.
2 cheeseburgers and 2 bananas. 2 bananas.
2 bananas. 2 bananas.
Right, that's the answer. And I just want to say to everybody out there, hang on a minute. Just hang on 5 seconds. Right, this is the best part of the show. Chachi LaPret, right, he's given me the correct answer. And not only that, hang on a minute, I've got to show you something. Chachi buys his bananas, right, for 59 cents. Right, there's the bananas there.
Money in the banana stand.
And he buys those bananas at his fruit shop. I think it's Trucci's Fruit Vegetables in Middlesbrough, Massachusetts.
Somewhere.
No, I said it. Trucci's in Middlesbrough in Massachusetts. He comes in from Boston. Now listen, Chachi, if you're watching the show, Ivor and I would love you to come on the show if you can. If you can, you can. If you can't, you can't. Ivor, can you ask him to come on the show?
Well, Chachi is a real wizard on all things Beatles and has the most fabulous collection of Beatles stuff I've ever seen. I mean, he's never invited me to watch it, to put my hands on it, but he has a great collection. I know that. And he probably knows every food habit of the Beatles, of Elvis, of anyone. Right? Am I right, Chachi?
Yeah, he can't come on, but I wanted him to come on and sing Rockahula.
That's right.
But he can't.
If the Beatles ingested it, Chachi knows about it.
And don't forget, make sure you listen to Breakfast with the Beatles every Saturday and every Sunday, because he's got one of the best shows, Ivor, radio podcast and shows on the radio, Breakfast with the Beatles. It's like no other show, and it's actually the best Beatles show in the universe. And I mean that sincerely. Now, as we're talking about Elvis and we're talking about Beatles, I want you to tell me about your first book, Ivor, and where they can buy your book. Please do that, because it's one of the greatest books out there.
Well, the book is about my travels with the Beatles. And unfortunately, as time goes by, many of us are sort of leaving the planet. I'm still around, by the way, and it's my unvarnished story about traveling with the boys. And I had a great deal of fun. I never knew at the time I was having so much fun, but much later, everybody said, you must have had fun. And I said, sure, I did. And I wrote a book about it. No, seriously, I had a great time. But I told Plastic this before. I was a journalist working for a big London newspaper, okay? As soon as the Beatles went home, I went home, and I handled the next story, which happened to be, I remember that, the Warren Commission report on John Kennedy's assassination. So I didn't sit around wondering, 55 years from now, I'm going to sit around with a bunch of Beatle experts and dissect the Beatles. It took me a long time to write the book. So, you know, look, as we are living history, and many of you experts may agree with me, as we live history, we don't become historians until much later. So we just roll with the punches, don't we? Everybody, please help me out, do we?
Yeah.
I'm going to help you out, but what I want to say is now, The Beatles and Me on Tour, The Beatles, Ivor Davis. It's a fantastic book in all the greatest bookstores online. It's on Amazon, everywhere, isn't it, Ivor, for sale?
It is. It's all over the place. And I want to say it's been a pleasure being on the show. I know you've got a lot of people coming on. Plastic, it's always fun to see you and talk to you. Your enthusiasm knows no barrier. Am I wrong? Please, those who disagree with me, raise your hand. Okay. Oh, well done. Okay. Thank you,
You're right,
Plastic.
Elvis. I'm sorry. You're right, Ivor. But before you go, we can't let you go without saying, Ivor Davis, the man's groovy and the man's famous. But let me tell you, the king wants to say goodbye to you, Ivor.
Okay.
Yeah, baby.
All right, but let me ask you this, Plastic. Can we channel the king to do one more song?
We
How
can
about-
talk about more
how
songs.
about
You want
Joe
Joe
and
to do another
Plastic?
song?
How about so we can channel Elvis to come back at this very moment and sing a song? Joe, can you do it? Plastic, can you do it?
Oh, God.
Okay, how about, I always love Heartbreak Hotel or Blue Suede Shoes or whatever is your fancy, Joe.
I'm not an Elvis expert by any means, so I apologize. I apologize in advance for this. But maybe we can, I don't know how we can sync this up with EP. EP, can we do it?
Yeah, you go
Can
for
we
it.
do
But
it?
I'm saying, Joe, when you sing, don't sing so hard because the speaker can't take it.
Hey. Well, since my baby left me, I found a new place to dwell. It's down at the end of Lonely Street. It's Heartbreak Hotel there now.
Sing it.
Get me
My
so
baby's so
lonely,
lonely,
baby.
baby.
Get me so lonely. Get me so lonely, I could die. Does anyone actually know the second verse? Like, I don't.
Yeah, now if your baby
If you're looking for,
leaves you,
if you're looking
and
for
you got
trouble,
a
no,
place
new
to
song, new
dwell.
song.
Now if your baby leaves you and you got a new place to dwell, just take a walk down Lonely Street to Heartbreak Hotel.
Burn
My
Hotel.
baby's so lonely. My baby's so lonely. My baby's so
Lost me so
lonely.
lonely.
I could die.
So lonely. I could die.
If you're looking for trouble, you've come the right place. If you're looking for trouble, just looking right in my face. I was born standing up and talking back. My daddy was a queen of Bell Jack because I'm evil. My middle name is Misery. Yeah, because I'm evil. And don't you mess around with me. Woo! That's enough for me.
Elvis the King.
Well, that
We
was
love
great,
Elvis,
Joe. And listen, I want to say I've talked too much plastic, so I'm going to say goodbye to everybody because these other experts have so much to add to your sensational program.
I want to hear more from Ivor. More Ivor.
Yeah, I want to hear
More
Ivor.
Joe, I paid you to keep it down a bit. Remember I said when we rehearsed this? I said, Joe, don't overdo it. Okay. All right.
Hey, Ivor, can I say, what's your favorite Elvis song? The number one Elvis song that you love?
I love Blue Suede Shoes and I love Heartbreak Hotel because I remember as a kid in England, a friend of mine called me up and he said, I'm going to play you something. And he played me Heartbreak Hotel. And he was in ecstasy. He was raving about it. And he told me, this is this guy Elvis. And I'd never heard him before. And I liked it. So I guess, it's in my memory genes or whatever it's called. So that's the two best. But I'll just finish with this. Unfortunately, Plastic, as I may have told you, I went to Elvis's last few performances at the Hilton Hotel. And I want to tell you, you may not know this, anybody, but Colonel Parker worked the living daylights out of Elvis at the Hilton Hotel. Now, I'm going to ask you a quick question. How many performances do you think Elvis did at the Hilton Hotel in Las Vegas under the aegis of the man looking after him, Tom Parker? How many times did he play at the Hilton Hotel Vegas? Take a guess.
Okay, we'll have a guess starting with me and we'll go in a circle and you tell us higher or lower. I'll start with 3,000 performances.
Lower.
Daniel.
We're talking about, wait a minute, we're talking about over maybe...
2,000.
Go ahead, much lower, Plastic.
Over what?
Yeah.
Over what period, Ivor?
2006.
I would say from over a 6 or 7 year period.
So that's different. How about 20,000?
It was a lot. I mean, he played his last show like 6 weeks before he died.
900.
Don't forget we're talking about it was the Hilton Hotel, the internationally changed to the Hilton. Yeah. But don't forget, this is only Vegas. This is not the movies, Plastic. This is 2 or 3 shows a night over a period of about 5 years, say, at least.
Yeah, it was
because as a result of Elvis playing at the Hilton Hotel, or the International it was called, he resurrected the hotel. The hotel was really in the deep in the glooms, and Elvis moved in there, and it was the hotel. Go ahead, any more guesses?
It was 2 to 3 shows.
1,302.
Well, you're getting closer. Go up a bit.
469.
No, not quite. Anyway, I'll put you all out of your misery. It was about 800. Go ahead, Mark.
I said 500, but you're saying 800. So
yeah,
800.
It was about 825. I mean, that's a lot. 365 days in a year, over 5 or 6 years. Elvis doing 3 performances a night, doing an early show, a dinner show, and a 2 a.m. show.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's slave labor.
That's slave labor. You're right.
And keep in mind, he hadn't played live in 12 years before that. He'd stopped playing live in 57 before he went into the Army.
Don't forget, Fred, as you said, don't forget, Elvis's career got a bad hiccup for him. He had to go into the military. Didn't do anything then, did he? Anyway, so as I say, I've yammered on too long, and I let you guys talk a bit more. I think I'll vanish. And unless there's anything else, and I'm sure there isn't anything else.
I've got one question. One question.
We'll let you play your Elvis records, but I just want to say, did you see Elvis playing at the Hilton?
Yes, I did.
Playing live at Vegas?
Listen, I went several times to see Elvis play. And every
And
time.
what was that like?
Well, I mean, in the early stuff, he was terrific. In the last year or two, he was very chubby. He forgot some of the lines. And there was a photographer from Australia, by the way, called Colin Dangard, who had a hidden camera in his pocket. And he took it out and started snapping fat Elvis pictures. And within about 30 seconds, 6 security guys jumped on him and dragged him out and took his film away. And so Elvis, and Parker had him working until, he shouldn't have been, because he was on drugs, he was on having weight problems. He hardly got into his suit. And the last time I saw him, he was spilling out. Anyway.
Ivor, I've got a question. In the Beatles, in the Beatles anthology, George mentions that he's seen Elvis in the 70s.
Yeah, like 70s.
Do you know when George seen him, and were you with him?
Sorry, he said, I didn't quite understand. You said he saw him on the 17th?
No, saw him in the 70s. Do you know where it was in the 70s, in the 1970s?
Oh, in the 70s, yeah. Well, I think it had to be, I'm bad on dates. I know when the Beatles came over, George had moved to LA, don't forget. And that's an interesting story. Did George hang out with, are you saying George said he hung out with Elvis in Vegas?
He said he saw him on the anthology show. He said he saw him in 1972.
Yeah.
Roughly.
I seen a concert. He said he'd seen a concert, but not,
It could have been Madison Square Garden.
Could have been.
Might have been there, yeah.
Because John Lennon went to see Elvis at Madison Square Garden too.
Yeah.
And also Bob Dylan.
Right?
Supposedly, George went backstage and told Elvis he needed to scrap the big band and get back to Scotty and Bill. So,
really?
And DJ, yeah.
Yeah. So what year was that?
It's early 70s. I want to say 71.
Yeah.
71, 72.
I think 72.
Yeah.
50 years ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so much, so much great stuff. I mean, afterwards, don't forget, John lived in New York. George traveled a lot. They came to LA. Elvis was in LA, and I can't remember the exact year that he died. But they certainly didn't hang out together. The only guy that I remember hanging out with Elvis with some regularity was Tom Jones, because Tom Jones played with Engelbert Humperdinck. Remember Engelbert Humperdinck? They used to play, I think, at the Riviera every 3 times a year, and I had to go and see Tom do the same bloody show. And he did a copycat show. He had the same women in the front row throwing their underwear at him, And then
I got to say something. Engelbert Humperdinck is the man that stopped the Beatles' run of 12, 13 number ones when he put out "Please Release Me,
Let Me Go."
And also, do you know that Tom Jones, he was having a shower in Vegas, and Elvis came into his bathroom and started singing a song to him and said, "You got to do this song." To Tom Jones while he's in the shower. Have you heard that story?
I believe it. But, what I'm going to sing right now as I leave is "Please Release Me, Let Me Go." So I'm sorry, everybody. I'm going to take off. It's been a pleasure.
Well, it's 1 for the money, 2 for the show. 3 to get ready now. Go, go, go. But don't you step on my blue suede shoes. Well, you can do anything but lay off of my blue suede shoes. That's for you, Ivor.
Okay, thank you. Bye, everybody. It's a pleasure to meet you. See you again.
Take care.
Cheers, Ivor.
See, Ivor, how great was that? Now, hang around if you want, Joe. Show us your Elvis stuff. Who's got Elvis stuff to show? Come on.
Thanks.
I got this.
Go for it, Ed.
We got Gatfred. You got
Elvis's appearances on the Ed Sullivan Show. Cool. DVDs. Appearances on Ed Sullivan. Right here. Over here, the box set of the complete 50s masters, all the stuff he recorded in the 1950s, including the Sun sessions.
Yeah.
Pretty good. This is the set of the Madison Square Garden concerts.
Yeah.
The 2 concerts, the afternoon and the evening. And this was the album that came out after Elvis died, Elvis in Concert, which was the 1977 TV special, which has not been rerun on network since 1977.
Right.
That is the thing about collecting Elvis. It's endless. I mean, you know, some bands you can find all their, you know, releases, EPs. I mean, Elvis is endless. I mean, it just goes on forever.
Yeah, because there's so many sections of Elvis: the movie Elvis, the early Elvis, the Vegas Elvis, and so forth. Fat Elvis, if you want to call it.
The Moody Blue album.
The Moody Blue album, Fred, is probably one of his best records. It's
right.
a really strong record.
Last album released when he was alive, and this is the blue vinyl version.
I love that. I have that on my wall.
There you go.
I got this for Christmas.
Oh, nice. That's a good reissue. I've enjoyed that.
It's obviously the second volume of that, and that's very good. Nice takes and stuff on Nashville things.
Cool.
Very enjoyable.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say.
Yeah.
It's great.
We were discussing Elvis's love of peanut butter and banana sandwiches, and it dawned on me that Elvis ate his whole life like he had been fed the way he ate when he was fed by his mom. He never really got over. He never really. That part of his life never changed. Despite all the famous, he just wanted.
It's all psychological. It's all very psychological.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is
Elvis. This is the way it is. Which is
cool.
his tours in '71, and the Great Aloha from Hawaii concert.
Right.
What's everyone's favorite Elvis film? Because I think That's the Way It Is the best Elvis film.
It's a great film. Yeah, it's a great film.
My favorite film of his, I think, is probably King Creole, followed by
good one. That's a good one.
How good is it? My favorite.
I love Love Me Tender. Not Love Me. Loving You. Loving You is the one I like.
My favorite acting one actually is Roustabout. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
And you want to see a collection of singles? I'm not going to show them one by one unless you want me to.
Wow.
Wow.
Got a lot of them there. Mark's a fan, apparently.
I just found them in
I think you have to talk about Viva Las Vegas because of.
I was going to say my favorite song, my favorite movie playing 24 hours is Viva Las Vegas, and I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of Van Margaret. She's Elvis's equal.
Yeah.
She's the equal to Elvis. There's no other equal.
Yes.
She is it. She looks great like him. She acts great like him. She dances like him. She does everything perfect.
Agree. I was going to agree. That's why I brought that film up.
On the song Viva Las Vegas, I love it how he sings the end note where he goes, Viva, Viva Las Vegas. To get up to that last note is the best.
But I totally agree with you. The reason I brought that film up because I was going to say Anne Margaret is incredible in that film. And it elevates the film from other Elvis films because it's like it becomes something else. The energy and the chemistry in that film is unbelievable. Like
she's the female Elvis. There's no other actress that's up at that level like that.
Yeah, totally. She is absolutely electric in that film, and she's hot as hell. She's hot as hell.
And one of the reasons why I married Vicky, my wife, is she looks like Anne Margaret. That's it.
Fair enough.
She's a beauty.
But yeah, King Creole. You mentioned King Creole. King Creole. The song "Crawfish" in the King Creole is an amazing tune.
It's an amazing song, and it's an amazing vocal. I mean, he has a tremendous range in that, you know?
Yeah. It's got that great female backing vocal as well. Like,
yes. I got to say this, Joe. You know King Creole? That was a serious acting role. That's
not King Creole.
That was that serious. But not only that, do you know that he got asked to do A Star Is Born with Barbara Streisand, and they knocked it back and didn't let him do the movie?
That. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And
can you imagine how good?
That, and then look what they did. They did the remake of that original movie, and it became a big hit.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine how good that film would have been with Elvis?
Exactly.
It would have been
70s Elvis in that film.
It would have been
70s Elvis would have been amazing in films. like older Elvis with a bit of gravitas, you know. What a great actor, like it would have been in the 70s. He was already a great actor, like you couldn't stop looking at him in the 60s. But in the 70s, Elvis as an actor, an older, mature actor would have been, wow. We were
The problem
denied that.
that Elvis had was his idiot manager, Colonel Parker.
Mhm.
And now Colonel
yeah,
Parker, in my personal opinion, is the villain in the entire Elvis story.
Yes.
Because
Yep.
because Colonel Parker stopped him from recording music that he wasn't publishing. He stopped him from doing the movie with Barbra Streisand, A Star Is Born. He stopped him from touring anywhere outside of
United States.
the U.S.,
US,
particularly Las Vegas and places like
Yeah,
that.
I just want to say, I wish you'd have toured the world. And there was a rumor, Joe, I don't know if you know this, but I've interviewed my friend, right? And he said there's a rumor that Elvis came to England and no one knew about it, right? And we wanted to know if anyone had photos of Elvis visiting London because he told a fantastic big rock and roll star on the quiet to show him around London, and no one knew. And at the time, he was in the army in Germany, and he went to Paris a few times. So I actually believe the story that he came to the UK.
Tommy Steele claimed.
Yeah, I think so.
Tommy Steele claims that happened, but no one has ever confirmed it. Tommy Steele has always said, still to even this day, that happened. I don't know. As far as I know, officially, Elvis, the only place in the UK that Elvis visited was Prestwick in Scotland, where I am now. So, yeah, as far as we know, Elvis only visited Scotland, but not properly.
But between you and me, I believe it because I believe he did a lot of things that no one knew about. And I want to say, good friend to our friend, Eric Belmondo. Let me tell you, he's got the #1 art gallery in San Francisco opposite Fisherman's Wharf. And I suggest everybody visiting San Francisco has to go to the KZ Gallery, right? Or ZK Gallery. I've got to have a look, right? It's off my head. But it's directly opposite the Fisherman's Wharf, the famous sign. I mean, you can't get better than that, Daniel. You're very cultured, so you've got to go and visit him.
I guess I need to. Yeah. Well, one more thing for me to do this year. So, woohoo!
The guy's a star in his own right. We love Eric. He's a great guy. Now,
in 1970.
So, yeah, I don't know if Tommy Steele. I don't know if Tommy Steele's telling the truth, right?
Listen to this. When I went to elementary school, there was one girl, and I remember her name, and she was an Elvis fanatic. And she had the picture of Elvis holding the big koala bear that the Australian fans sent him. I don't know if you've seen that.
What you just said sound like the best lyrics of all time to a song.
I mean, look, I got to be honest. It's very hard being one person at making it that big because the Beatles, there were 4 of them. So it's an easier gig because they had someone to talk to. To go up there on stage on your own as one person.
Yeah,
Elvis is the greatest. There's no question in my mind as an individual.
Remember, George said in the anthology, he says, I always felt sorry for Elvis. He said, there was 4 of us being the Beatles, but there was only one Elvis. He was the only one that knew what it was like to be the guy. And I think there's something to that. There's something haunted about Elvis, and especially when you get into the 60s and 70s.
He seemed very much alone.
Yeah, very much.
I think you can see that, and when you see the film that came out recently, and it was outtakes from the '68 special.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes into detail about how they built up to him doing it, and it shows you that some early takes and some other kind of things, and you can see that he warms up. But in the earlier stuff, you know, he's like sitting on his seat and he's kind of not sure what to do. In that early, the early takes of the '68 comeback special, he looks kind of desolate, and he looks kind of he's not quite remembered how to perform, and you can see him warming up as it goes on. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting that he had totally lost himself in terms of a performer, but it's understandable as well. Like when you talk about like,
I gotta say he had the biggest career, Joe, but also I gotta say, as far as I'm concerned, Elvis is #1. There's no question in my mind. He had the greatest voice ever given to man. There's no question in my mind. And he was a truck driver, and he made it on his ability. And the guy came from nowhere and became the biggest thing in the world. And he's one of the biggest brands even today. Everybody might say something or joke about Elvis or whatever, but you know what? He's a true superstar, always to be there forever. And the Beatles loved him so much because he changed music. It's a fact. An innovator, a pioneer. Those Sun sessions, those recordings are unbelievable.
Yeah. That's
true. That is true, Plastic, where, you know, the Beatles loved Elvis, and Lyndon McCartney actually bought Bill Black's stand-up bass for Paul McCartney. And Elvis, you know, he had a great band, and I don't know if everybody's aware of this, but the Doors, Light My Fire, the guy that's playing bass is Elvis's bass player.
Right.
Okay? And also, Elvis did a lot of innovative things. If you listen to Little Sister on YouTube, there's 9 takes. Now, back in the 50s, they were using 2 drummers. Okay? And I think that's pretty cool. You know, pretty innovative.
DJ Fontaine. DJ Fontaine was unbelievable as a drummer.
That's right.
Right.
Scotty Moore, unbelievable as a guitarist. That's what made the sound. When he got away from that early sound, I'm being honest, the best weren't with him. I don't care. You know, he went to a different sound altogether. But then what happens is he sort of lost his way after the movies, but then he came back so strong with Suspicious Minds. Within the Ghetto.
I don't know, man. I disagree, to be honest. Like, I think the Sun stuff is incredible, but there's so much good stuff. It's not all good, but there's great stuff from the kind of RCA period and all that. Like, really good songs, like, you know, like Bossa Nova Baby, incredible, you know, like Crawfish. There's great songs on all of those albums. They're not consistently great albums,
some of the movies,
but you can. There's so many good productions. The production is incredible and all that stuff. Really good.
I can't stop singing Clambake or It's a Long Lonely Highway. It's a long lonely highway when you travel. I watch the movies for the theme song because they're that cool. And that way, Clambake, go and have a Clambake.
I can do
when you get to this stuff. Go ahead, Fred. I'm sorry.
I can do without yoga is as yoga does. That's the one that's the duet he does with Elsa Lancaster.
How about Elvis's little-known psychedelic song, "Edge of Reality"?
Yeah, that's a great song.
I don't know that one.
Great song.
Yeah, that's a great song. The Edge of Reality.
Edge of Reality. Very unknown. Great tune.
No, that's a great song.
He covered Bob Dylan, which is cool. It's too bad he didn't do more songs like Dylan songs and things like that.
Yeah. And that went back to the publishing that Parker wouldn't allow him to do. He loved Jimmy Webb, and he would perform a lot of Jimmy Webb songs in concert, but he would never recorded them because Jimmy wouldn't give up the publishing.
Right.
Wow.
Wisely.
That would have been great stuff for him.
Yeah.
I'm at my girlfriend's Kathy, and my phone's going to run out of juice. So happy New Year to you all, and it's great to see you guys.
Okay, Nathan.
Good to see you, Nathan.
See you, Mr. Shampoo. Thanks for joining us on the Elvis special. All right, we keep going. Anyway, so many great songs. And I mean, when I think about the songs that I really love, you got no idea. It just goes on forever. Like, I love those early songs. I've been traveling over mountains to the valley, to get back to you. I mean, those are great songs.
Great
you can
songs.
listen to Elvis forever.
A lot of great songs.
Elvis's gospel stuff is incredible.
Oh, I love his gospel stuff. There's a CD of most of the gospel things, which is wonderful. You got to listen to this. I love his Christmas album.
Something else comes out in his voice when he's singing that stuff, and it's really powerful.
Well, that's the music he really loved. You know,
that was his root. Gospel. I mean, you know.
Yeah, that's true. That's the roots of all music.
Mm-hmm.
A second ago, Mark put up the picture from the single from Unchained Melody, which, if you listen from the Moody Blue album, the last album, is one of the most amazing vocal performances he ever did, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. And I happen to love the Moody Blue record. Yeah, that right there. I mean, it's incredible. And that 1977 album, the last one, he really had some really good ballads and a couple of chunky pop rockers like Way Down and Moody Blue and a few others. I mean, I could have done without doing Olivia Newton-John songs and all that, but essentially it was a really quality record. But for me, I love the stuff he did in 68, 69, 70, 71. All those records that he did in the Ghetto and Burning Love and
kind of that.
all that. Kentucky Rain is a great record.
Oh, Kentucky Rain is
Country
great.
Soul.
Yeah, I just
You were
want to
guiding
correct
Country Soul.
something, right? Eric Belmondo, you got to go and you got to go visit, as I said, ZK Gallery, right? It's there opposite Fisherman's Wharf. It's 213 Jefferson Street, San Francisco, California, right? The United States. If you want to go and see fine art, you want to see pop art, you want to see something different, you can also see the two shows on Plastic EP's page. Eric Belmondo, as I said, ZK Galleries, check out those two shows. They are unbelievable. Now, going back to the King, we pay our respect because we love the guy. In all seriousness, pioneer, innovator, changed the face of music, culture, everything. Imagine what it was like when he started out doing those songs and they thought it wasn't a white guy singing when he put out his first songs. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, remember, he was working at Sun Studios, which had been recording Howlin' Wolf, Rocket 88. I mean, like, this was, Sam Phillips knew what he wanted, and Elvis fit the bill perfectly. And they created some amazing work. I was listening not of Elvis last night. I listened to Mystery Train off of 78, and you can't beat that. You just can't beat that.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to buzz off, but it was fun. I had a great time. Ivor was wonderful. You guys are great, and have fun with the rest of the show tonight.
Take care, Fred. Happy New Year to you.
Take
Thank
care.
you for joining us, Fred. We'll be
everybody.
wrapping it up shortly. Thanks for being on.
Good night.
Cheers, man.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.
See ya. I just got to say, here we go. Our good friend Jim Thatcher says Way Down in the Jungle Room is a great album.
Yeah, it is indeed. It's a great record.
It's a fun
He's
record.
got a great podcast too, Jim and Mike. Check it out. I've been on it. He's a great guy.
There's a great
You know
mix
what?
on Way Down also. There's a good dance track and so forth, and
Well, that's
and
right.
a lot of the remixes that have been done in recent years. I can't think of the name of this, but it was a big hit in the '90s, late '90s.
Oh, a little less conversation.
Little less conversation. I mean, this guy came along and remixed that and some of the other songs from that period. It's just
Yeah,
tremendous.
that was a big hit. That was a
Yeah.
big hit.
Huge hit.
And also, I want to say with Elvis, right? He's done so much music that you can discover it forever. And it's like, these are classics. As we said,
Yeah.
I agree with Joe. In the Ghetto is like one of my favorite songs too.
Yeah.
It's like the Beatles, Leave My Kitten Alone. Like
Yeah.
all these songs that you don't know. Clarabella.
Well, I've
You go
never
to the
been-
BBC sessions.
The way I'm into Elvis is not the way I'm into the Beatles. The Beatles are like I know everything. I know everything that's out there. With Elvis, I've always been fascinated by him, and I got into like Elvis throughout my life. I get into different stages of Elvis, and I always discover new Elvis stuff, and it's like, fucking hell. As I get older, my mind is blown by new Elvis stuff. My wife is an Elvis obsessive. She is the way, and like she didn't know I was doing this tonight. So when she got up, I woke her up like doing the music. She didn't realize I was doing an Elvis thing. So, but she is the real Elvis obsessive between us.
So
but
she's
but
not
Elvis,
gonna,
for
she's
me,
not gonna
I
get upset
always
with you because you're
discover
doing an Elvis show, not a Beatles show. Is that right?
What's that?
She's not going to get upset with you today because you're doing an Elvis show. Is that right?
Well, she didn't know. She didn't know. I was saying, I'm doing an Elvis show. I'm doing an Elvis show. She was like, I don't fucking care. Like,
Hey,
get
Joe,
to bed.
Joe, why don't you bring her on to say hello to everybody? Get her on to say hello to the
No.
world. You're newly married.
I'm out in the studio now. Like, I'm out in the house. I had to
Hey,
move.
Joe,
I
you want
was
to
in
get
the
her on
kitchen.
to say hello to Plastic EP. You should say Plastic EP wants to say hello to you.
Maybe next time. Not this time. No.
You know what? All I say is you keep doing what you're doing. Everyone's waiting for your new album. Top of the Poppermost. They got to go out and buy the album. Tell them where they can get the album, Joe.
Well, the next one's not going to be out for a long time, but you can buy the buy the first album, which is called Hits to Spare, and you can buy it on the internet. like everything else, if you put in the Poppermost Hits to Spare on Google, you will find it locally to you. It's released by a US label. So if you're in the US, it's easier to buy the album than you're in the UK where I am. So you can buy the LP direct from the label. Check it out if you like the Beatles and Mersey Beat, etc. Thank you. There's a
Joe,
plug for you.
Are you doing original material there, or are you doing covers?
It's all original. It's like an early 60s Beatles album, but original songs, all recorded with authentic instruments and recorded with the aesthetic of the early Beatles. But it's
Excellent.
not like it's not a pastiche or anything. It's my songs done with a proper early 60s Beatles aesthetic. So
Well, that's
Give
exciting.
him your YouTube
I'll check it
channel,
out.
Joe. Joe, tell him your
featuring,
YouTube channel.
Featuring, like Hofner bass and, J160E, if you like that kind of stuff, and Vox amps and Ludwig drums. It's just me doing it. But if you love early Beatles, you might like my album. So check it out.
Cool.
Tell him your YouTube channel, Joe. That's the quickest way to do it.
Oh, I don't know. Just put the Poppermost into Google and you'll find it.
Oh, I don't want to say anything, but Joe and I will do a song together. No one knows. We're going to record a song, aren't we, Joe?
I've got it in my head. I've worked out the arrangement for it already.
All right, don't tell them. Keep it a surprise. There'll be another show, all right?
No. You got me flying. Oh, baby, I was flying.
All right, relax. I don't want the world to hear it yet, all right?
Relax. No. I've got it. I've done it already.
All right, that's great. I can't wait to put my vocal on it. Now, I just want to say, as regards to Elvis, you got to understand, he was inspired. When he heard Tom Jones' Green, Green Grass of Home, when that song first came out, it knocked him out because that's him going home on the train. And he's listening to the words that affected him so much. That's why he loved Tom Jones. And that is one of the greatest songs, Green, Green Grass of Home. I'm telling you, seriously.
I always thought that song is sort of the musical version of an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. If anybody knows the Ambrose Bierce story, it's sort of like you realize in the last 5 minutes that he's dreaming all this about going home. It's like, it's like, so, yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. Yeah. It's like the dying thought.
Mm-hmm.
Now, also got to say something else that a lot of people may not know. Have you seen, you must go to YouTube and watch Tom Jones when he talks about the time that he wanted to knock out John Lennon. And the reason being is, he's appearing on a show and he's sitting with his manager in the empty studio, TV studio, whatever. And John Lennon comes out with his guitar and sees Tom Jones and goes something like, it's not unusual, something, right? He says exactly these words. And Tom Jones was going to knock him out. And
John says what? Sorry, John says.
Humor.
What did John say?
John said something that I can't repeat. Right? He
So
said
please say.
something about
please say.
you being a unicorn. He goes, it's not unusual. And John's singing something about a unicorn, making the words different, right? And then he said something about him to get him upset. I want you to go to YouTube and see it. It's like Tom Jones tells it as it is. Did you not know about that?
No.
I'm going to look that one up, but I did not know about that.
Said something. I can't repeat it on this show. But I don't blame Tom Jones for wanting to knock him out.
Tom Jones is okay, man. I think Tom Jones is one of the decent guys of kind of.
Anyway, everybody watching, I just want to say, look, as we come to a close of the Elvis show, we've gone 1 hour, 4 minutes. I want to thank you so much, Joe, for coming on and entertaining with the world out there with your Elvis renditions. It was fantastic. It was so solid. You're like, they let you out of the jar, man, and you're like alive. I love it. It was like early Elvis. It was like unbelievable for me.
Thank you. Cheers, brother. Good to be here. And cheers, guys. Thank you all. Thanks to Ivor.
Great show.
Really nice to be here. Really
Well,
nice
as I
to hear
said,
those insights straight from the
we
horse's
thank
mouth.
you all for
as
being
ever.
on the show. And just before we go, Joe, because I'm going to close it for all of us, all I can say is go out and buy Joe's album of original songs. Now, also, as we wrap up, 50,000 Plastic EP fans can't be wrong. All right, we've done our tribute to the king, and we love you out there, all the Elvis fans. We're big fans of Elvis too. All right, see everybody till next time. Bye.
And we all say thank you.
Bye,
Thank you very
everybody.
much. Yep.
Back
Bye.
to